Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. So we've been talking for the past few weeks about concentration. And I'd like to move on to contemplative illumination. And they are different in that concentration helps to bring one to a place of single pointed focus or awareness, much like a light bulb that disperses light to a laser. And the capacity, it's still light. Both of them are still light, but one has the capacity to slice and to cut through just by the gathering of the rays into a single focus. So if you think of concentration like that, gathering, collecting the mind to a single point, a single focus, then that's how it should be understood. But contemplative illumination is a little bit different because it's locked into sequence and time. So it means that one engages in or utilizes the concentrated mind to examine and think about or contemplate something to help you, to help shed more light on it. And so in a way, it is still using a discriminating mind, but it's using a discriminating mind that is concentrated. And so it allows for more penetration. It allows for more focus. It reduces distraction so that the quality of analysis or examination is stronger. So one becomes more secure because the mind is not scattered. So in the concentration, we have brought the scattered mind, you can come on up, we've brought the scattered mind into a place of single focus, and then we use contemplative illumination to look more closely at that. So that means it's like if I'm going to examine something and it's a mile away, I might, depending on its size, I might be able to see it from here, but I won't be able to see it in its detail and and in its largeness until I'm closer to it. So the concentration is to allow a more up close and personal look. It's something like that. So very simple. So contemplative illumination then. Now, when it's up close and it's personal, it is designed to break through the illusionary characteristics of it. The illusionary characteristics would be how the sense bases have defined it for us, you know. For instance, if I'm in the nighttime and I have a teddy bear in the chair and I'm afraid of the dark, then I might think that the teddy bear is a monster in the chair. I wake up at night and I see something, and I'm like, Daddy, Daddy, there's a monster in my room. It's a monster in the chair. But he cuts on the light, and you can see it was just a teddy bear. So the illusory appearances we attribute to the sense basis. You know, what the eye saw and what the ear heard and what the tongue tasted, you know, what the mind thought and what the nose smelled. So, but it's not actually like that at all, because it takes the sixth consciousness to interpret for us. And that's where things get tricky, so that seeing is no longer just, when we see, we just see. But when the sixth consciousness merges with the eye base, then we discriminate what we see. And that discrimination is based on what we have assumed we saw before. It's based on what our memory tells us this is like. And so we come away not seeing something as it actually is, but as the mind has captured and put together and given us a view of something, and we say the eye saw it. And so part of progress on this journey is working at relaxing the discriminating mind. When I'm talking to you all, I'm looking out in general, and I'm not really discriminating between you, even though my eyes may, you know, glance around, but I'm not really focused on you at all. But if I pointedly look, now I've moved from a non-discriminating mind to a discriminating mind. And it's just that quick. It's just how we constantly shift in and out of a discriminating mind and a non-discriminating mind. We can think that we are being non-discriminating when we really are, because when the mind lands on something, then discrimination arises. So if that word is troublesome for you in getting the picture, pick a word that's, you got many words you can use for something. Come up with your word that points out for you the difference between attaching to something as you see it, as you hear it, and you can find that out. You can tell that when you get in a group and you start like discussing things or talking about things. You know, we have it a lot when we're in rehearsal. In rehearsal is where discriminating mind shows up a lot, you know, because people only hear the part that they want to hear. Their own mind is talking to them. And while they are listening, they think they're listening, their mind is speaking. And so they can't really hear what's being said because their mind is speaking to them. And so whenever you're in a group with people and you all are doing something together, that's when you can tell how discriminating the mind is all the time. Now there are times like when you're not paying attention and the conversation is going on, that's a non-discriminating mind. You don't even hear what's being said. Say, what'd you say? You know, you don't, or it just goes completely over your head because your mind was focused elsewhere. And so we are most times discriminating when we need to be non-discriminating, and we're non-discriminating when we need to be discriminating. So until we can really see the difference and find out how we land in those two spaces, we can't do anything about it. We just hear conversation about it and we agree with it, but we can't really change or modify because we have to really clearly recognize within our own personage, within our own being, within our own mind stream, when I have a discriminating mind or when I have a non-discriminating mind. So it can't just be discriminating, non-discriminating, or words set out there, and that's what it is. It has to be in the mixture of your actual engagement in every situation. So when we talk about truth, we talk about ultimate truth, and we think it's one big truth stuck out there forever settled in heaven, but it's not like that. The truth depends on people, places, and things, or beings, places, and things. There are qualifications for something to be true more than something that is fixed and forever settled, because it modulates and it's modified according to karmic conditions, according to what's arising, what's abiding, and what's passing. And so we know these things in our mind, but when it comes down to acting with them, it's difficult for us to assess it. So we can use this whole method or process, many methods, but the whole process of the understanding of meditation to employ or to begin to work with the mind in becoming concentrated, developing a skill of concentration, a quality of contemplative illumination, which allows for the intrinsic or the natural nature to be self-revealing, which would be prajna, the truth of the thing, before we color it, dissect it, change it, shift it, interpret it through the lens of our sense gates. That's for today's conversation. That's the purpose of meditation. It's not the only definition or the way that you can look at it. It's one of 1,000 ways you can look at it. But every time we learn a way of understanding something, that becomes the way of understanding that. When, yes, that is a way of understanding, but it's not the only way. Or yes, that is a way to utilize or to use something, but it's not the only way. Yesterday, or whatever day, Monday or Tuesday, when we were, what's this, Wednesday, Tuesday, when we were in class, and we were talking about test taking, and how I didn't want to take a particular test that I was asked to take because I didn't feel like I could give, even though I had an answer for it. I didn't, if the person who's what do you call it, rating, scoring, like scoring the test, if her mind is not with me on that particular day when she's testing it, because yeah, it's right in, and that it's not like, so it's right in, then I might get that's a wrong answer, because she's thinking of that, of an answer that is also an answer, but it's not the answer that I'm thinking of today. So she might consider it wrong today. But if we were on the same wavelength about something, then when she went to answer that, she'd say, that's right. So I have to leave it up to somebody to decide whether, our minds can sync, or what, so I feel like I'm just not gonna do it, and that's it. So we were talking about the definition of prajna. And I said, now, if I had answered that question yesterday on what is prajna, I would have said blah, blah, blah. But today, in reading this particular paragraph where Buddha Master is expounding on an aspect of prajna, that's sticking in my mind right now. So if the question came up today, what is prajna, I would answer it according to today's insight, you know. And so, but when we get stuck in there is one answer, this is the right answer, then we lose all of the myriad factors that enter into great understanding. And we have like just like a kind of miserly understanding. It's not that we have no understanding, it is just a limited understanding. So understanding is useful in this situation, but it's not so useful in that one. But as we move more into a space of non-discrimination, we become vaster, we have more tentacles that can move out to cover a myriad of circumstances and a myriad to assist with a myriad of different views. And when and how that occurs is through not having a commentary on everything. So we go into meditation the same way we go into everyday life. If somebody says something, then I immediately have a response based on my experience, based on my level of understanding, based on, no matter what comes at me, I have a response, whether it can range from, well, I can't speak to it because I don't know, to I'm the one who knows. I got all, and anywhere in between, and so when we go into meditation, we take that same mindset, but it's a design through the practices to actually destroy and deconstruct that whole mindset. So going into meditation for more and for deeper actually is the wrong mindset to go into it, because it is calling or requiring of us less. So if we take it as a means of analysis, then before we arrive at a particular state of clarity, and a state of vision or state of life, then all we've done is added to our not understanding. We've added to our ignorance that is comprised of the interpretations that have come through our sense gates. And so this is what is so hard, because we're going in there to attain something. And so we're putting forth effort using mind consciousness to try to attain something, to try to understand something. And he's saying the only way that there can be attainment, advancement, and understanding is that you have to relax what you've already attained and what you already understand. And there's the clinging to, the cleaving to what we have attained and understood, and wanting to add more to that prevents the training from taking hold in us and bringing us to the space or the place of more, because we are trying to add to what we have instead of relaxing and detaching from what we have. That means taking our eyes off of one discriminating position that we hold so that we can see what else is in the room. When we start having success in that, in our carved out time that we call meditation, we start to have success in that in our waking life, in our everyday life. We're not so dependent upon whatever knowledge or learning that we have attained and required. Oh, it could be there working in the background. It's just like having on a Swiss watch, and it's got, you take the back and open it up, and it's got all these gears moving, you know. So something is working back there in the background. I'm thinking about the song we were working on, a recording today, Mind Behind the Mind, that Jamie wrote. And, so these gears are working back there. But when I'm looking at the watch, all I'm looking for is the time. Not all of these gears, but these gears are in position and they're having their perfect work that gives me the time. So all I have to do is look and it will tell me what time it is. You see, and so prajna is like that, the gears of the universe that's working behind the scenes. And if I will lend attention to it, if I will open myself up with affection for its qualities and its offering, it will tell me what time it is. I'm thinking of analogies so that it's better like to get the picture of it than to try to process what I'm saying with the mind. That's where we get ourselves in trouble. So I like to read a little bit today. I generally don't on an open day read from this particular writing, but I will today. So the actual nature of the sense basis is non-attachment. The eye just sees, the ear just hears, right? It's free of differentiation, then that's its intrinsic nature. The intrinsic nature of the eye, or whatever sense base, eye in this case, is just to see all forms. It's for the purpose of seeing. Yet it does not differentiate. However, non-attachment to forms does not mean not seeing forms. So when we think about non-attachment, we think we're cutting off something. And we're not really cutting anything off. We're just not attaching to it with a mind that's interpreting it for us in a particular way on the basis of memory for the most part, but other elements too, feelings. And so, because if it did, if non-attachment meant not actually seeing or smelling or whatever, just say not seeing if we were talking about the eyes, then we'd be like a blind person who wouldn't see anything. So it's not the same as not seeing. It's about not coming up with a pre-established understanding of what it is we are seeing in the present moment based on the past. Okay. The same thing for the ear sense base. It takes sound as its object and it can hear all sounds. So it becomes a sense base through the coalescence of sounds. Its nature, however, is non-attachment to all forms, yet it can hear all sounds. So it too is not attached. Upon hearing what I just said, a disciple once interrupted me. He thought that what should be said is that the ear sense base is not attached to all sounds. That's incorrect. It is not attached to all forms because everything that the ear sense base hears also has the characteristic of forms. That's why it said its nature is non-attachment to all forms. It should be able to hear all sounds, yet is not attached to any one sound. Hearing but not differentiating is non-attachment. Hearing but not differentiating is non-attachment. So it is able to hear all sounds, but there is no differentiation. That is called nature or natural or our intrinsic nature. So that lets us know that we have a much broader capacity to pick up things, but it's because of our habit of discrimination that we only pick up certain things, that we and maybe continually refer back and pick up certain things. Sometimes I say, like, you're not hearing me, because the mind is thinking in a certain way, and it cannot, through non-exertion, not that it cannot, but through non-exertion, get off its spot. You know how, like, you have, like, sometimes you be like a dog with a bone, you just can't get off of that thing. You just can't let that go. It's like that. So we attach to something and we have a hard time seeing it any other way. It might take a lot for me to see it some other way. Let's say that you have mistreated me, and then something happens in your life that cracks you open. And the very next time I see you, you act, but that act is with is that act or action is without malice. But I can only see you in one way. So I'm looking for the slap down. I'm looking for the ulterior motive. I'm looking for it because that's how I know you. That's how I see you. And I miss that one opportunity to break whatever may have existed, in the past between us, that completely changed the trajectory of our relationship together, because I can only see one thing when I look at you or when I hear you or whatever. And that's how we miss all of these opportunities when we're relying upon our sixth sense basis that includes with a discriminating mind to tell us what is in front of us. It is and so, but there is a different category of sense basis, and they're called the transcendent six basis, or the pure form sense basis, that are created from the purity of prajna. And they exist as well, together with and in reliance upon the five sense bases of the physical body. And that means that the transcendent bases have completely extinguished the characteristic of form, and they're free of attachment. They are derived, as I say, from purity. They're the kind of entity derived from the Dharmakaya, or the Buddha nature. They dependently exist, not independent, they are dependent on the 5 sense bases of the physical body. And they have the function, these transcendent sense bases have the functions of capturing states and generating consciousness, capturing states and generating expanded consciousness. So they can simultaneously perform the functions of capturing states and generating consciousness. Ordinary eyes are unable to enter into this realm or this sphere. So if we talk about a divine eye or divine ear, we're only simply talking about this transcendent basis that can capture higher states of consciousness. It's like if there are certain sounds in this room that I can hear with my human ear. But if I have a dog, there are other frequencies and pitches and sounds a dog can hear. I don't hear. I don't hear it. It doesn't mean it's not sounding. It's just that in my ordinary state, I don't have the capacity to hear it. So when we can know, we should know that what brings about our limited capacity for certain things like peacemaking or like or even down to just basic working together is dependent upon whether we're in an ordinary state or whether we've entered a transcendent state. Now, one who doesn't enter transcendent states, but abides in ordinary states cannot reconcile with or reckon with or recognize. Or I would also say who doesn't, and therefore doesn't have appreciation for or respect for, cannot recognize when one is functioning from a transcendent state. And so it becomes an ordinary argument based on ordinary mind because they cannot recognize transcendent state. The thing about a true living master is that in their presence, they shut down your ordinary mind. You might not know what it is, but what you do know is that you can't contend with it. What you do know is that it has a way of enveloping you that I appreciate Brian so much, because Brian, I won't say that Brian is or was a skeptic, but what I will say is that Brian will analyze with all the faculties that he has, to determine whether this is something worthy of consideration. And when we had an opportunity to bring back some of our notes, and we were trying to share the best we could, just the understanding that we had, he said, well, I don't know who he is, I don't know what it is, but what I know is no ordinary mind could say this, And so it's worthy of my at least checking it out instead of tossing it offhand. And as some people say, what, is he wearing a wig? It's and that's what that's what I'm saying. So we have to be open to a concept of prajna that brings a kind of understanding that allows one to listen or to recognize when the transcendent state is in operation. And if you don't have that sensitivity, then everything just becomes ordinary to you and you miss it. You miss what was actually for you at the moment because there is not the awareness, there's not the appreciation, there's not the respect, or even if there's not respect yet, there's not the willingness, because I tell you, prajna is self-revealing. It will reveal itself to you. You know, like it or don't like it. If you really want to know, it'll let you know. And then you can decide what you want to do with it. But you will come to know its qualities and its characteristics. And it has a certain presence that if you're not too steeped in your mind, you can detect when it is present and when it is speaking, even if it's coming through an ordinary person. And so because we have this kind of discrimination, we miss what's available to us because we see everything through a lens of ordinariness, and we see everything as ordinary. And if that's the view that we hold, no need to study the teachings of the mystics. You can have all the ordinary stuff you want. Don't waste your time and don't take up other people's time investigating unless you are willing to take the next step, which is to become familiar with the essence of the transcendent. So this time we think meditation is to sit back and relax for a while and just let everything go and to just be at peace. But you can see why Shakyamuni Buddha said, breathing in and breathing out, we train. It's really training. This is not a letting go and just relaxing for a while time. It's a time of training. So if you think you can sit for a 10-day retreat and sit 12 hours a day, you know, you got high hopes. But if you start with just a short period of time and get a little bit of success with that, with the letting go part, which starts to create space between thoughts, the space between the mind that's always thinking, identifying, judging, scheming, planning, and analyzing, that space starts to, between the, not the arising, between the fading away of one thought and the arising of the next thought, the space, the sense, the spatial sense of timing begins to expand. You know, if you are eager to be somewhere, it seems to take a long time to get there. But if you don't want to go, you seem like get there right away. You know, so I'm talking about that spatial sense of timing begins to shift, and our awareness takes on a quality that is not it's unmandated. I mean, we cannot I can't explain time by minutes and seconds and hours to you, you know, because a minute can seem like a minute, it can seem like 2 seconds, it can seem like 2 hours. But yet we come up with this, it was a minute, you know. And so, yeah, and so we have to know the difference between conceptualizing and actualizing, because they are different. And this training is about actualizing. So we don't need to argue over how long a minute is, because it won't make a bit of a difference to us in our actual experience. We can agree that a minute is 60 seconds. What the heck? What does that mean? I mean, really, what does that mean? And so there's a difference in coming up with a concept and actually experiencing something. That's the reality state. And if we're always looking for what satisfies the mind, we will never enter the reality state. The reality state is not over there and over here. I'm in the discriminating mind state, or the illusory mind state, or the differentiating mind state. And over there is the promised land. It's none other than right where you are. But it takes a shift of the mind's priorities to apprehend it, and to be apprehended by it. So he says that these 5 sense bases are in the category of the physical phenomena, things composed of matter that have form and have a body, part of the physical world, physical phenomena. The 6th sense base is the mind sense base, and that belongs to mental behavior. It's the sense base of mentality. To be unattached to all of these forms. So what kind of forms would the mental base have?
Thoughts.
Thoughts. The thoughts are forms. Thoughts are forms for a mental base. Okay. This sounds like nitpicking, but once you develop and have a certain quality of concentration, it's like holding a magnifying glass over something. You start to see all of these details, and you are able to now focus on this magnified area. You can see it, and you start to work through a whole different set of a whole different level of investigation using the magnifying glass than if you're just using your naked eye.
Would that be using the transcendent sense spec? Transcendent?
It's not using it. It is what allows it to arise. It's what puts you in a framework and within it's what allows it to arise. You have to get closer to the object. You're a mile away. It's not that I don't care, magnifying glass is not going to help me see something a mile away. I have to get close to it and then pull out the magnifying glass, and now I can break it down into more detail. But from out here, magnifying glass will not help me. And so it's pulling out or utilizing the magnifying glass, but it's got to be in close proximity to your object. So this helps us to get closer to our object or subject of inquiry. And before we can do that, we have to drop all discriminating thoughts. And so some people get confused. It's like, well, are we going into no thought, or are we examining something? Which one are we doing here? Is anybody confused about that? Because we talk about nothing on your mind, and then we're talking about investigating. Doesn't it sound like we're talking about two opposite activities? Doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go with no mind and deeply examining, you know? So if you haven't asked that question, well, then if both of these things have to occur, then they obviously have to occur in some kind of order to be useful. And while one is occurring, it's creating the condition for another one to come into fruition. And so if you're not clear about these things, when you sit down to meditate, you just don't get anywhere. You just like roll around, because suddenly what you thought you were clear about when you were thinking about it, now you're suddenly not so clear. Like, what am I doing first? What are we supposed to be doing first? I'm just gonna empty my mind. And then, but I'm concentrating, like with focus on what? On something. And so the mind, and that's what you do the whole time of meditation. Okay. So that's why some things, you might be doing all the right things, but some things require a certain order. You might be doing all the right things, but your mind doesn't understand it because you haven't been assured. You don't have a degree of confidence in the process, in what you're doing. So that's why it takes some language parsing, some explaining things. But we can't just explain things for 30 years. It takes some explaining things, but then the rest you have to like just sit and do it and see what happens, see where it takes you, and have an inquiry based on that activity, based on that conduct. And if we pre-frame, like I read something in a book, and I read something about the astral body and going out my body. So I'm sitting down here because I want to have an out-of-body astral experience, and we're guiding it by our mentality instead of examining what happened in the last 5 minutes, what came up for me, it might, and even when, and what I will say is one reason to start with short spurts, short amounts of time, is because just making ourselves sit can cause drowsiness. And if you start drifting off in a few minutes, and every time you sit, you start drifting off after about 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then you are establishing what? A habit. And every time you sit, you will start to drift off in 10 minutes. And once you hit that habit, it's going to be very, very difficult to break. That's why I never say when I'm doing a meditation retreat, like, don't disturb other people, don't get up. If other people get disturbed, that's their work they have to do. But if you're sitting there and you're falling asleep, you need to get up. You need to get up, go get a drink of water, go wash your face, maybe take a walk around the room and sit back down and dispel. Now, if you can sit there and maybe open your eyes and dispel the sleepiness, you can rub your eyes, you can that's a little noisy in a meditation thing. Don't do that one. But you could hold them till they're warm, and put them on your eyes, and you can pull your ears, you can, and get your clarity back and then go back. I mean, just do that. Everything is moving in me now. I could just feel, I don't know, molecules or something. I feel something just moving. I'm now alert again. And that's the thing, is maintaining the alertness. So we don't become dumbos in meditation, we become hyper alert. So if in your meditation, you're not increasing in awareness, you know you're heading in the wrong direction, right? For meditation, because it's a hyper awareness, almost like going through a wormhole, and more is opening up for you, more is opening up for you, more is opening up for you. It's not fantasy, it's not fantasizing, something I saw on Star Trek or something I saw on Fantasy World, or it's not that. It's peering into the just the vastness of the emptiness, and all something makes itself known to you in accordance with your some accordance with your own aspiration. Now, lots of things happen when we're in a state of expanded consciousness. A lot of times with music, I'm in those states. I hear things, and when they come up, it completely overrides what I was doing yesterday, what I said we were going to do today, and what we're doing. It completely overrides that. So it doesn't matter. Well, yesterday we said we were going to do this. That came out of my mind, maybe professional mind, maybe, whatever. But when transcendence arises, it supersedes all of that. And so, but you have to get sensitive to it. And you have to be in a place for it to operate where there's sensitivity to it. If not, then we miss. And we don't get to know how it works upon our critical thinking mind, how it impacts our ordinary mind. And so the brightnesses, that's what the vidyas are, the brightnesses that are part of our individual transcendent nature, and different people have different ones, doesn't get a chance to manifest, it doesn't get a chance to come forward. But if you could imagine an environment where we were so sensitive to that, what could be accomplished and how quickly something can be accomplished. And we have to work at, so we have opportunities to cultivate that. We have opportunities to cultivate the quality of laying the preparation for the emergence of the transcendent sense spaces. And they are not separate and apart from the ordinary sense bases, but they are of a different composition than elemental matter, earth, air, fire, water, and space. They are of a different composition. So you can't buy them. You can't force an action from them. You have to establish the platform by which they can emerge. And that has to do with cultivation of certain behaviors. That when the mind starts to discriminate and tell you what the moment is and what it means, if you can drop that mind and be open to something entirely different from how you think it should be, how you think it should go. And that's where the real ego issue is, whether we can do that. And we have lots of time and opportunity to practice it throughout our day with every person that we encounter and also within our own selves, in our own thoughts. Sometimes I'll be sitting there thinking about me, and something that I'm doing or I did. Doesn't your mind run back to how you did it? It runs back to, it's constantly, because why? We have a conscience. Our conscience lets us know. Now, I won't say that everybody has a conscience that's awake. Everybody has a conscience, but some have a conscience that's awake. And its a job is to let you know when your thoughts, speech, and action are taking you closer to your goal or moving you away from your goal. And whatever your goal is, to be a better person, to be a helpful person, to abide in more selflessness, to be more generous, to be more compassionate, to not let the sun set on anything that you should have done. Even if you were too tired to do it, get up and do it. If you think you're down for the count and it comes to your mind, it's oh, okay, tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, But it's like taking the effort to get up. If there's still time to make that phone call, make it tonight. If it's, things like that. To be present, even with the uncomfortable things. Busita went to a friend's wedding, and their dog was there at the wedding, for the wedding, and the dog got sick, and Busita volunteered to take the dog to the vet, and the vet had, because of a misdiagnosis of some kind of a rare blood disorder, and had to be euthanized. And this was like a acute, I guess, acute repercussion of maybe not an acute condition, but a condition that wasn't diagnosed properly, and so it wasn't treated. Now it has become acute, and it's too much pain and suffering. It's not going to get better. So she had to do that. But the reason I bring it up is because Busita has an opening, a transcendent opening around particular things, like around animals and even humans who are dying. So when they called me from what is it, Elizabeth? What's the name of the place? Hospice. I'm not the one. Don't send me there. Because I'm looking for somebody to get up. But if it's that time, Busita goes and she sits with them going through that dying process, and she knows how to be with them. I could sit with them, but I'm not the best one to be with them at that time. So if you're dying and you want somebody, call Busita, call for Busita. Oh no, I'm going to send Busita because she can help you more, because that particular base of transcendence is open in her. I got different skills. She's got an opening right there. I'm just saying, and I'm sorry, don't mean to put you on the spot like this and pointing out things, but I'm just trying to explain things so you can kind of get some understanding of them. And so it was a blessing for her to be there at that moment, for her to be the one to take the dog to the vet, and to offer up with the to do a ritual for him at that moment. He wasn't coming back. And so somebody sent her a couple of photographs yesterday of something that I don't think that they didn't plan it. they didn't plan it, but as they were looking through, the photographer was taking all these pictures. There were these two pictures of the dog, and the dog, what's the dog's name?
Ruby.
Ruby. So Ruby was sitting, you know how to have the I don't know what's politically correct. The brides. Okay, so the brides were in a photograph, you know, and you have the train, and Ruby got on it. Maybe they pushed Ruby, get off, not right now, for the actual official photo, but in some, Ruby joined them and sat in the, you know, so it was the three of them. And then there was a second one that it was the same way. Now, they didn't know when they were taking this picture, or maybe even shooing Ruby off for the official photo, that Ruby would be departing, you know, and it gave them something so rare and so precious. You know, I was just moved, but maybe Ruby knew, I don't know, you know, but Ruby inserted and gave them something that is a forever lasting joy, because this happened on their wedding day, right? And it gave them such an everlasting joy that Ruby was there and part of them on that day. And that was like, so can you see how meaningful that she didn't say, let me give you a Dharma talk on the, you know, but what she could offer and bring with what is in her to come up, that's usage. That's what I'm saying. So we shouldn't categorize usage and think we know it's only this or it's only that. That's what I'm saying to you. I could probably be of more use if I was a layperson than a monastic now, because a lot of ways usage could arise through me are in ways that monastics can't do things, you know. But I took this route, and I'm glad I did, because I'm finding other usages that arise. But I'm saying that it's not on one or two or three people, but it's like all of us every day, you know, being available in the minute with whoever we're in front of, you know, and being able to tamp down our ordinary or subjugate or our ordinary faculties in such a way that we give space for the transcendent faculties to arise, and then we can be useful. There's so many. If we are held accountable for errors of omission, they would probably be 10 times greater than errors of commission. You know, things that we fail to do, you know. We're so busy looking at, you know, things that we do that's not so good, you know, but we haven't even opened the whole rest of the box on the things that we are not doing, you know, because we can't see it. And what keeps us from seeing it is our discriminating mind about what we think we already know and we already understand, or what this situation calls for, or I've got training in that, and I know how to. Kadar tickles me. Kadar started taking piano lessons, I think 3 weeks ago, and then she giving lessons. I know. Remember, I gave 2 lessons this week, you know, voice lessons, you know, and I'm like,
She's writing songs on the piano after her 2 lessons.
yeah, you know, but so somebody's gonna try to limit her. That's all I'm saying about it. You got to hold your own space, you know, but I'm saying it right now because of how we assess things, our modes of discrimination. So I'd like for you this week to notice, to pay attention to when that discriminating mind is rising up. I mean, I don't think, I was gonna say, I don't think you can like.
Easier to notice when it's not. Exactly.
Yeah, but what you'll start to see is it's all the time. It's all the time. And it's not like, dang, there it goes again, there it goes again. It's like, notice, check, yeah. And the second step is to be able to step back and reserve the judgment or assessment, if judgment's too strong a word for you, the conclusion that it's leading to. Just take if you can take strong medicine, use judgment. If you need something, you need a euphemism, use conclusion it's leading you to. Just whatever you're strong enough to take. Yeah. And so I'm saying, without being hard on yourself, just recognizing and observing. Then you don't have this tightness that you feel up here when you're trying to cram something this big into a space that's this small, you know. And you will be pleased with your noticing. You'll see it as a precious revelation. You know, revelation doesn't have to be big and earth-shaking. Actually, the finer they are, the smaller they are. You know, the more they can needle their way into all those little crevices in our life that those little holes that we need to plug up. You know, we just don't go the big things. We're plugging up the big things that people can see, but it's all of these little things. We're asking to see them, opening up to the universe to show it to me. You know, and then but we got to get close before the magnifying glass is of any effect. How do you get close? How do you get close? That's my question. We have to each know ourselves. I can always look and say, I know what her problem is. I know what her issue is. I know what he's thinking. We were like really good with that. But we don't know what our problem is, what our issue is. And most of the time don't even really know what we're thinking. And so he says, turn the light this way. And again, you do it just from the point of observation, not from the point of judgment. You can't use judgment or discrimination to arrive at non-discrimination. You have to begin little by little deconstructing how you discriminate, what discrimination is, and what that is for you. You know, and so we should never get bored. Throughout the week, there's so much to do. Now, if we busy ourselves, so we take these little pockets of time out just to think about things like that. I could sit down and ask myself a question, you know, and just think about the question. I mean, I don't mean these earth-shattering questions like who am I? You know, I mean, you know, all the good ones. You got to be getting close. You got to be close up on it, and that mile with that magnifying glass before you ask questions like that. Ask questions that make a little bit more sense to you in the beginning. Like, well, why did I just snip at her? Or, you know, I mean, to ask some questions that you can really get some meaning from, to see a behavior or a pattern that you want to change. You know, like if I'm insecure, then I might have to, you know, pontificate and make myself seem big because I feel that I'm invisible. And unless I do this and have some bravado, you know, or less, you know, every time I walk by you, I have to say something to you to make sure that you see me. but that has to do with my insecurity of feeling unseen. And you have to ask yourself the question. Don't ask question, you don't get a answer. Ask big question, get big answer. Little question, little answer. No question, no answer. No. And so just beginning to ask ourselves little questions like that. And you will start to know something about yourself. And you will know whether it's in the category of body habit or whether it's mental habit. And where it is on your scale of differentiation and non-differentiation. And I'll tell you then the lines will blur. They will begin to blur between right and wrong. It will blur between good and bad. They won't be stuck in these boxes where we can only argue or try to get our point across. But they will blend in such a way that we can utilize what's right about something, and even there's a place for utilization around something that is not right. You know, it just depends on what phase that action is in. You know, so I know we can all think of circumstances where we feel that something wasn't right, but it was the action that was the catalyst for rectifying a situation. That's why Buddha said, like, he says, use soft speech, gentle speech, and then he gets on and says, sometimes I speak gently and sometimes I speak harshly, because it's knowing what is the right action at the right moment, that can, maybe if I have a prize stallion, he's running across the field because he doesn't want to be mounted, right? I don't blame him if I was a horse and he's running towards the precipice, you're not going to say, come on. You're going to have, you're going to try to give some command for stop or whatever, and so different things take different kinds of actions. You got to understand that, but it's built upon the foundation of first doing no harm. Sometimes you have to harm something to save it, I mean, and so this is how we can become more wise in the actions that we take. But it starts with asking those questions. It continues with knowing that we function on a certain phenomenal level. That level does not exist. You are actually sitting in this room. I'm sitting right here. We're having conversation. At this level, I'm not you and you're not me, so we can't say that this is like not real. It is real on its level, but there are other levels or scope of knowing that would actually defy, like we all might be cells inside of one giant organism. Probably are, actually. If I think about my stomach, this is food I eat, this is my body, but they tell me my body is like 90% other creatures in there, like bacteria and microbes and stuff like that. So it's different ways to look at this body. It's like a cesspool, and I'm overtaken by, really, I don't even want to know that part of the science. But it's a truism. So looking at things in the right way for the right circumstances in the right time to assist people in the most progressive way. That's this daily walk of Dharma and awakening a mind, that Bodhi mind that's full of compassion. Compassion is not just you got a little boo-boo, let me put the little Tinkerbell Band-Aid on. That's not compassion. That's not it. But it is this. Some of us could be a little gentler. Some of us could be a little stronger, but we just keep working tandem until it becomes just right. So thank you for coming today. I didn't know what I was gonna talk about. But I think it was all right.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you for going to get me focused. Okay, thank you. Mhm. Somebody,
May the merit of our listening adornment today grow to benefit living beings everywhere. May living beings, all those who have a mind, learn to see where they may be doing harm and develop the motivation to do otherwise, to focus on benefiting.